All right. Welcome back to Boss Uncaged podcast. So today's show, we're going to be talking about a particular topic on a social media platform that is, I would say, very underrated considering that there are 330 million active users on this platform. And I think that it's one of those platforms that people need to know about, need to know how to use, and it's been around long enough that it should be a little bit more credible. So we're going to be talking with, and I'm going to name her, obviously, she's going to be the Pinterest boss. Sarah, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'm actually excited about this call. I mean, for obvious reasons, it's one of those things like topic wise, I've talked about many different things, but I haven't had opportunity to really dive into Pinterest as of yet. So I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Cool. So let's just dive into this. Just tell the audience a little bit more about yourself and kind of like where you are and how did you get into becoming a Pinterest specialist?
Um, well, my name's Sarah Ankney, and I got into it by accident, actually. One of my past clients, who was my first client, I kept telling him he needed to be on Pinterest. Get your podcast on Pinterest, get your YouTube videos on Pinterest, get your blog on Pinterest. Just get all your content out there to a new platform. And he's like, well, I don't have time to do it myself. Can you do it for me? I'm like, sure, this will be an experiment. So bear with me, you know? And that's how I got started. And I really enjoyed doing it too. So I just kept up with it and started to build my business around it. Um, I'm also a mom of three. I just got married. And what else? I just love horror movies and music. I used to DJ as a side note.
Hmm. So let's just talk about like your a little bit about your education. I mean, obviously you have more of a marketing background. So I mean, obviously you're using that today. Like, how did you get into marketing to begin with?
Well, I was actually going into entrepreneurship when I started my schooling because I wanted to learn more and be able to run my business better.
Mhm.
Um, as I started using Pinterest, I started changing. I'm like, well, marketing's more direct. I can use it better when I'm doing my Pinterest business. And that's how I got into marketing. And I really enjoy it because it's spreading people's messages to new audiences and getting um, their content seen.
Hmm. So let's just talk about pictures a little bit. I mean, obviously you're saying that out of all the platforms, and you went into entrepreneurship and you have a marketing background. Like, why did you pick that platform out of all the platforms you could have got into?
One, I enjoy it. Two, it's underutilized. I mean, there's 80% women, 20% men. More and more people use it. I started using it to learn how to do social media when I was in direct sales, um, before I started going to school. And it just was a powerful platform for me. I've learned a lot. And I got a lot of information, a lot of courses, a lot of freebies, a lot of how to do things. And so I believe in spreading value, and I wanted to help others spread their value along as well.
Yeah, I think most users don't realize that, Pinterest is more of a search engine. I mean, obviously you put content up there, and if you tag it right and you put the right headers and titles and information, then it's a searchable content, much like YouTube forever. So let's talk about that, and like how do you leverage that?
Well, the pins stay in the feed 4 to 6 months compared to other social media platforms. So, and you're right, it is a search engine, so, and as well as a social media platform. So you have to be able to interact with it. They now have comments and likes and things like that they didn't have before. Um, but I love using it just to, oh, I can't even think where I was going. I am sorry. I lost my train of thought. Repeat the question.
So, I mean, talking about Pinterest is like why did you pick that platform versus all the other platforms that you had opportunity to use?
Well, I found it easier. It's like something that I jam with. Like it brings me joy to get out there and learn more information. So I want to bring that to other people because there's a lot of people starting businesses that don't know nothing about starting a business. And you can find information about starting a business, personal development, mindset. I mean, it is endless. Plus, you can not only can you get the recipes and crafts and things like that, you get um, tips and tricks on how to do things in your business. And now that they're uploading idea pins and videos and things like that, it's become much more um, available to other people, I
Hmm.
think. Plus, if you go on Google and you search, a lot of times Pinterest pins show up. So why not use it to your advantage?
So I mean, obviously, Pinterest is more of a like an image platform, and I would think it competes essentially with maybe TikTok, Instagram, and potentially even Twitter to a certain extent. So why would a user, besides the fact that you're saying that Google picks it up, like how else does it benefit a business to use that platform?
It benefits the business to use that platform because you're reaching an audience that is different. It's not the same as a regular social media platform because of the search engine, and there's a bigger audience for you to find new and potential clients. It's the top of your sales funnel.
Hmm.
Just like if you're on other social media, it's the top of your sales funnel. You want to get them into your email address. You want to get them over to your website. You want to get them to your YouTube channel. You want to get them all these different places. And you can do that on there. You can post links on there, unlike other social media that you really can't. Like, for example, Instagram, you really can't post a link for somebody to go somewhere where because it's an image based platform. Whereas Pinterest, you can. You got to make those images sharp. You got to make them, stand out and pop so that somebody clicks on it, just like you do on Instagram. But this time, you're going to be able to take them to where you want them to go.
Hmm. Interesting. So let's talk about you for a minute. Like, I mean, if you could describe yourself just using 3 to 5 words, what would those 3 to 5 words be?
A mom who loves Pinterest.
Sounds like a t-shirt. I mean, do you have that t-shirt made up yet?
Not yet. There's going to be a T-shirt, and um, I think other T-shirt I would put uses Pinterest like a boss.
Very nice, very nice. So, I mean, obviously, like you're dealing with a demographic of probably more so A-type personality, females or executives, and you're helping them to learn how to utilize this platform. And without naming names, like what's the worst case that you've ever dealt with someone that, just didn't get what you was trying to teach them or just were not willing to take the time to see the results?
Um, I have to say one that she had just started a podcast
Mm.
and she just started her blog, and I put her at the lowest package I have because I don't believe in overcharging for things. And after the 6 month period, she's like, I don't want to renew. I, I'm like, okay, that's great. I don't think you gave it enough time because you don't have as much content as other people to get seen,
Mm.
but that's okay. I'm like, it may not be for you. I get it. I had another instance of someone that had great content and a lot of content, and they quit after 4 months
Mm.
because they didn't give it the time to
Mm.
get it going. It is a 6 month to a year platform. It's slow going, but once you get going, you, it's the sky's the limit.
So you're talking about like obviously I think you have a magic number in mind. So obviously on Facebook is a platform that you can post, maybe a couple times a day. Twitter is a platform that you can post like 100 times a day, no problem. Instagram, Reels, pretty often. Like how often and how frequent does someone post on Pinterest to start seeing results 6 months down the road?
All right, post 5 to 7 days a week. You have to also pin other people's posts, but I post 2 to 3 times a day different pins, and they can't be the same link because if you post the same link, it's going to punish you because they think you're spamming. So make sure it's 3 different posts. After 4 to 6 months, you can repost the same content again to get it back in the feed. So if you're, running low on content, just go back and start at the beginning and put fresh images and fresh descriptions up. And then you get your eyes on your content again. It's just like any other platform. You got to repurpose your content.
So, I mean, is it a content that you would say, I mean, obviously you work with podcasters and anyone that understands podcasting, those run on RSS feeds, which is a syndication. Would it be fruitful to then leverage that RSS feed and have that automatically then post in Pinterest for you?
Yes. Yes. Um, I would post it to Pinterest as much as you can, your episodes, especially I know you're up in numbers. You have a lot to post. It's not just a simple little amount. So I would post 2 to 3 podcasts a day for you, 5 days a week. I wouldn't Saturday and Sundays I kind of take off from posting to give it a break so that it doesn't think we're spamming it as well.
Hmm.
Um, but post 2 to 3 times a day. Make sure you're repinning 5 people's other content. Make sure the content fits with what your business is. Don't just post random content, excuse me. I do, however, recommend you put a couple personal boards. Like I had one of my clients post about chickens and rum and dogs and things like that because that's what interests them because people want to get to know you. So when they come to your boards, they want to say, oh, these are real people. They're not just all out to get my business. This is stuff that we know about them.
So I mean, I think that's interesting. I mean, obviously, based upon the platform, and we're talking about social media, and there's a collective, a lot of them, right? I mean, ideally, if you're posting content, you want that content to roll into your funnel or to your landing page or into your website. But what you're
Right.
saying is like half the content or majority of your content is going to do that on Pinterest. But then at the same time, you need to share other people's content. When you're sharing other people's content, doesn't that like take that person to their landing page potentially? How does that work in your
Yes,
favor?
it works in your favor because people often repin. And even if it's not your content and they're repinning from your board, it
Mhm.
counts towards your saves. And that's part of the metrics of Pinterest. You want clicks and saves and um followers, which is it's more difficult with the followers. It's more like monthly views. You
Mhm.
want your monthly views to be high. So, there's people that get monthly views, 10K monthly views. You want that on eyes on your content. I think that's where social media differs is unless people are exactly following you on your business page or on your personal feed or in your group, those unless you have those kind of numbers on there, it it's bad. It's not as great as Pinterest. Whereas Pinterest, you're getting 10, that 10K monthly views, but
Mhm.
those views, and it can be higher than that. I'm just using that as an example. But those views are often by different people and different audiences every month. It's not the same people that's just following you on, we'll just use Facebook as an example. You
Very
get more people in your groups and you add more people, but it's not necessarily that amount.
cool.
You're limited on Facebook on how many friends you can have.
Gotcha, gotcha. So I mean, and I think that's definitely an interesting philosophy with Pinterest that makes it unique in that sense, right? I mean, the algorithm is working differently than any other social media platform, which leads me to like the next question. Now, obviously, these are active people that are, like you said, now they have likes, now they have comments. But in Facebook group, I can say, okay, I know this person, or I can see that person, and I can do a direct message with them, and I can do the same thing on Instagram. Is there anything on that spectrum that I can do with Pinterest? To say someone likes a lot of my comments and they've been doing it for a couple of weeks, how do I reach out and communicate with that person directly?
You can directly DM them. Um, it they can or cannot accept your message. It's one of those things. But you can directly DM them and maybe send them to your Facebook group or send them to your YouTube channel if you notice they're liking a certain amount of content. Say, this is a playlist with the same kind of content that you're liking and sharing and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So I would say reach out. And the other thing is you're going to get them on your email list. So you can reach out that way too. If you notice someone that's clicking a lot on your email, maybe send them a personal email. Say, hey, can I get to know you? Let's get on a virtual coffee. I see you like my content and I want to, maybe share some tips with you.
Very cool. Very cool. So, like, I mean, obviously, you've been on this journey for a period of time. You were kind of raised in an environment to where marketing and entrepreneurism, but I mean, ideally, how long have you been on your journey with Pinterest?
With Pinterest, I've been on the journey for 3 years. I've loved working with my clients, even the ones that, say it's not working for them,
Mhm.
because I believe in spreading their message. I always feel like a connection to whoever I work with, and so that I can spread their message. I've turned down a couple people because I couldn't connect enough to spread their message and write the content and do the images and stuff like that.
So, I mean, that's pretty interesting. So let's talk about your ideal avatar. I mean, obviously, if you're turning down business, is it more so like the content is something that you don't believe in? Is the content kind of like taboo? Like, what made you say no?
What made me say no? Well, let's just give an example of a bookkeeper. I don't know jack shit about bookkeeping.
Mhm.
So for me to write the content for someone would be very difficult. Even reading their blog posts or watching their videos, because I do that often with my clients so I can write what I need to write.
Mhm.
Um, I just don't connect with it. I connect with people that have a magical message, that have like a spiritual message or a great marketing message. People like yourself that want to help others, that aren't just out for themselves, and something that I know a little bit about the topic.
Hmm. Hmm. I mean, that definitely makes sense. So let's talk about like, I mean, obviously you're putting that out there in the ether. So I mean, obviously you're trying to get the people that are like minded like yourself. Just go back in time. Like, what kind of kid were you? Were you a kid that was raised with that philosophy? Or was that something that you grew into?
Oh no. Oh no. Um, I have to say I was one of those kids that did wanted to be a teacher. So I'm still being a teacher, just in a different way.
Hmm.
I never thought about being an entrepreneur. I started that because I wanted to show my kids that they could do anything they wanted in life, even start their own business.
Hmm.
Um, but as a kid, I was the nerd. I was into math. I was into science. I wanted to be a science teacher. So marketing just kind of happened. It was over time. It was like, hey, I really enjoy this. Let's keep going with it. Um, but as a kid, I would have never thought that I'd be where I'm at right now. It wasn't in my vision. But I learned to go bigger with my vision thanks to a couple of the coaches that I've worked with. Um, my mindset sucked as a kid. So I had to reteach myself how to have a great mindset. Pinterest helped with that as well as coaches. Um, so when I started my journey, I was a way different person than I am now. And I believe that through your journey, you have to grow.
Hmm.
And I've grown into the marketing aspect. I've grown into the mindset aspect, because the only way you're going to be a boss is to act like a boss.
Hmm. Hmm. Very, very true. Very true. So, like, let's just take this peel that back a little bit more. If you can go back in time and change, let's say you have a 5 minute period that you can go back to any time in your lifespan and have an opportunity to talk to your younger self. My question is, when would you go back and what would you say to yourself?
I'd go back probably middle school, and I'd tell that person that no matter how much you're being bullied, no matter how much you're being put down, that that's not true about yourself. And I tell them to learn how to do a journaling practice with affirmations, gratitude. And then I'd say, you're going for bigger things than teaching. That's not your audience. Your audience is in marketing, and you're going to be good at it. Yes, you love teaching, you want to help kids, but you're doing the same thing except you're helping adults.
Hmm. Hmm. So, I mean, what kind of parents did you have? I mean, did any of your parents or any of your like aunt, uncles, or ancestors were they entrepreneurs, or anyone in your family were?
Actually, no. I had two family members start businesses after I did. They're, brick and mortar businesses. Um, but they started after I did. It was not in my family. I do have to say, like, some of the things as I did as a kid, looking back, is entrepreneurship, like, your lemonade stands, stuff like that.
Yeah.
We live by like Triangle Tech here, and I would go at lunchtime and put lemonade and candy bars and chips, and they'd come over and buy stuff from us. So I had it, just didn't realize I had it in me to keep going bigger on it. But my family's always been supportive, regardless. They haven't been one of those families that has said, "Oh, why are you doing that?" They're just like, "Is there anything I can do to help? Um, is there any way I can support you?"
Hmm.
So I've been lucky that way. My parents, they worked menial jobs, not anything spectacular. I don't think they were doing what they loved. Um, they kind of just let themselves stay in the mediocre life, and I don't want to do that for me and my kids.
Hmm. So I mean, you brought up your kids. So I mean, obviously with that upbringing, obviously you're raising your kids a little bit differently. Like, how does that affect your day-to-day life with your kids right now?
Well, I make sure to check in with their mindset because I have a 14-year-old. She just started in a new school district and she's not happy about it at all. She misses her friends. And I was like, you're going to have an opportunity to meet new friends and do new things. And she's like, I don't know what I want to do when I'm done. She's like thinking about cosmetology. She's thinking about business. She's thinking about being a YouTuber. And I'm like, why don't you take classes and explore so that you can figure out what you like? Um, my middle one, she wants to go into the workforce. She eventually wants to go to college, but right now she's working. I have an older one that she's student teaching. So each kid is different. And I make sure to check in with their mindset because mindset is key for everything. Um, and so often, especially after COVID, mindset kind of went down in the gutter for some kids. And I want to lift my kids up. I don't want them to see like what I saw where it was called, a bad kid because I didn't get an A or, you know, some of the things that parents say nastily that they shouldn't say to their kids. And I want my kids to be lifted up and not, put back down.
So it seems like you're a big mindset person, right? So obviously we're talking about general mindset, and most people that have like these global mindsets of being positive usually come with some kind of daily routine. So I want to talk about like what does your morning routines look like?
My morning routine at first starts with coffee because I don't function without coffee.
Yeah.
And then I start with my journaling practice. I write gratitude daily. I write 100 things I'm grateful for. I write affirmations daily. I also check in with my own mindset because sometimes, things are bugging you and you need to get it out. So I call it brain dumping session. I just dump everything, whether it's like, I'm having a problem in my business or whatever. And then I go back and change it into a positive because I believe in bursting that negative bubble in my head where I
Mhm.
can change it into a positive. Like, okay, I may not have gotten 10 people into my Pinterest for beginners. Let's revamp and figure out how I can do it better or
Mhm.
how I can market it better. Or is there something I'm not adding as a bonus or whatever that would attract more people? Or am I just not speaking to their pain point? So I go and revamp and think about what's going wrong right at the minute and make sure that I know that hey, this can be changed. You may have an obstacle, but it can be changed.
So I mean, I think that's hell of important. I mean, obviously with the gratitude journals and like what you're saying, you didn't start off this way, and obviously you found coaches on this journey. You found the rite of passage into where now like you're hella strong mentally. What books do you remember reading on this journey? Probably books that were recommended by these coaches to kind of help you to get to where you are currently.
Um, I mean, oh my God, what's the name of the book? It's by Jen Sincero. It's about the money. It's the money one. Oh my God. You know
The
which one I'm
badass,
talking about.
the green one. It's the green book. It's
Yeah, it's the
yeah,
green one.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I definitely know what you're talking about. It's what's I forgot the name. Something money badass.
Yeah, it's got money and badass. And I'm trying to think. And it's in my drawer. The other book I read was it's Donnie's first book. Donnie Boven's first book.
I'm trying to think about it. I mean, is it the one with him sitting down on the cover?
Yes. And I read that from front to back. I've also read all his other books. I'm a huge supporter, but he's really changed my mindset and helped me figure out that, hey, I can do what I want. Your vision doesn't have to stay small. You're going to have obstacles. Like I've read his story and, you know, he stayed stuck for a long time and so did I. So I can relate. So I just love his books. There's a couple other books I want to read. One's about creating abundance because I believe you receive in many ways, not just money. So you have to open yourself up to receiving, period. Um, so it's called Creating Abundance, and I can't think of who it's by, but those are the books I've read so far. I have a couple other books on my list. I also read a couple direct sales books when I was in direct sales. So every step along the way, I've read different types of books to help me along in my entrepreneurial journey.
So have you ever thought about, I mean, obviously you're a blog writer, you write content for other people, you're always talking about like the effects of Pinterest, like the tools and tips of Pinterest, how to use Pinterest. Have you ever thought about maybe self-publishing a book about the mindset of Pinterest?
I have thought about it. It is on my vision board. I have a vision board for a podcast and a YouTube channel. So those are all in the works. Um, but I definitely write the mindset of Pinterest because Pinterest is a different mindset compared to other social media. Um, I haven't seen much negativity on there, which you can often see on a lot of social media platforms. I also think it's a different mindset because people are coming in curious and wanting to know, wanting to learn, whether it's your crafts or recipes or business. It's a place to learn. And it's a learn on your own environment. But you can't get them to other places where you're teaching them directly. So I just love that. I've taken courses off there. I've just taken so much information from there that I just enjoy it. But it's definitely something I want to write about, that there's more out there than just regular social media, Pinterest for badasses or something like that. You know, it will be a great opportunity for people to learn about Pinterest.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think if you haven't started it, I think, if you just kind of go through your blog posts and kind of organize them as more so like a hierarchy of information, like the starting of the journey, kind of where you should be, where you are, and then obviously closing out with like tools and tips and resources. I think it'll definitely be a hell of a fruitful book, and there's no reason why you can't write it right now, right? I mean, it's
Right, right. There's no reason I can't write it right now. I was getting my course prepared and I started getting ideas. I have an outline
mm,
of things I want to write about.
mm,
Um, and I also like to start just a regular mindset journey book because of the journey I took of being stuck. I mean, I was stuck for 20 years.
mm,
I didn't start my entrepreneurial journey until my late 30s.
mm.
So if I could do it, anybody can do it at any age.
Hmm. So let's talk about like the gratitude for a minute. I mean, obviously, like the gratitude kind of helped you change your mindset to get to where you are, and obviously Pinterest is really good for like doing mindset and mindset posts. Like, how does that usually work for an individual that you're working with? Let's say that they don't have any mindset stuff. Do you then start helping them to start projecting what their positive mindset is and start using that on Pinterest?
Um, I do because I believe that people want to see your journey. So I tell people to talk about their journey. you know, a lot of people that have started entrepreneurial journey has started a mindset journey too, because it's definitely different and you definitely get stuck in places in your business and you need to get unstuck. And the only way to do that is to become positive about it. Like your car breaks down, but you're still positive because you're safe at a gas station,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or it could have been worse. You could have, had an accident because you blew that tire.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to show them that you can post about not only your business items, but your mindset journey because people want to hear about you.
Yeah, I mean that makes perfect sense. So let's continue to that wave, right? The wave of positivity. Say you're surfing into the next phase of your life. Where do you see what you're doing right now with Pinterest 20 years from now?
Well, I would love to have a team and sit back and go out and speak about it
Mm,
because I believe this is a different way of marketing your business. Excuse me. And I would like to have a team and be the front person of my business and show other people that they can do this too and help them with their mindset that, hey, just because I'm sitting as a mom at home doesn't mean I have to sit back and just clean. I can do something on my computer for a couple hours a day, you
mm,
know, and get out there and make some money.
mm,
So I really believe in the entrepreneurial journey. And this is, one way my mindset helped me and the gratitude helped. The gratitude has been a key because I used to look very things in the negativity. Well, I can't pay this bill, but so I'd stay stuck in that
Mm,
mindset. I can't pay this bill. Well, okay, let's start writing down how we can solve it. What's the pros and cons? What's the dive deep into it, and then go from there. And I've always found gratitude that even if say your electric gets shut off, you're not homeless, and it'll
mhm.
come back on as soon as you get the next paycheck. You're gonna be okay.
So I mean, with that level of positivity, this talk about like your ideal avatar, and obviously you're working in an environment to where earlier you had said it was like 80% female, and earlier I had mentioned it's like 330 million active users on that
Mhm.
platform. So who ideally in that sector are you working with? I mean, obviously entrepreneurs is the top level.
Right.
Let's dig down a little bit deeper.
Well, I of course work with more females than males,
Mhm.
um, because they seem to want to take more chances and get out there more, and they tend to write more content. Not all of them, because like you have content out the wazoo. Um, but I tend to work with more females because I can relate to their mindset more. Um, I work with people that are around my age because they're a little more experienced and not as necessarily as newbie as the younger ones are. Not that I won't work with the young ones, but they're willing to take more chances and not be staying as safe because they want to get out there and be seen. Um, I want somebody that has been in business for a couple years that has the content, because if you don't have the content, I can't really work with you. Um, and there's a whole list of content that goes with that. I need somebody that wants to share their message with the world and has a great message,
Mhm.
not somebody that's money hungry, that it's more about spreading value to the world and having a bigger vision than just yourself.
I mean, that definitely makes a lot of sense. I mean, with that spectrum, I mean, obviously what you're doing, there's a lot of systems behind the scenes, like any other social media platform. So that leads me to my next question. I think one of the platforms that I found on your website was Tailwind. So I want you to kind of just talk about like, how does Tailwind work with what you're doing, and are there any other platforms that you would recommend to kind of help a user with their Pinterest profiles?
um Tailwind is great. It helps you schedule pins. So it's not you don't have to necessarily go on Pinterest daily. You can schedule your pins ahead of time, even repins, because they have what's called Tailwind um, tribes. So they're like groups of pins, and they all are in certain areas of topics like business, or they even have some with recipes or anything like that. Um, so you want like I said, repin other people's stuff so you can get other people's stuff from there.
Mhm.
You can set up to repin daily how many you want to repin on your not repin, pin of your content on there. And you can set it up for the week and batch task your Pinterest.
Mhm.
So even if you wanted to post on the weekends, you could post on the weekends, or whatever days you want to take off, you could take off it, how many pins you want to post. But I don't recommend spamming the repins, because they're not looking at repins more, they're looking at more fresh content. So you don't want to put as many repins out as you necessarily used to before it would be like 20. I say 5 to 10. um it also keeps track of metrics,
Mhm.
and different metrics than necessarily Pinterest itself. um You can also pin your pins to the Tailwind tribe boards to get it in front of another type of audience. Um, so those are great tools. I use Pinterest itself also to publish some of my clients' work. You can schedule up to 2 weeks in advance. Um, so say you have a blog post, and you can do this on Tailwind too, a blog post that you have two different images for and two different descriptions. You don't want to post the same link the same day. So I would say wait a week and post it the next week. So that would be a great way to schedule it out. Same with um, Pinterest. I admit I've never used any other platform. That's the only platform that I recommend because it works so well. And
Mm,
Pinterest doesn't down it in the algorithm as much as other.
mm, mm. I think that's definitely interesting. I mean, that's something any social media person or manager has to deal with pretty frequently. Like all the platforms, the algorithms are completely different. Like you can
Hmm.
post similar content on LinkedIn versus Facebook, and for some reason, maybe LinkedIn takes off, but Facebook doesn't, or vice versa. But again, once you figure out things that work and systems that are working, stick to them, and at least until the
Right.
algorithm changes.
Yes. And the algorithm does change frequently. So you have to keep up with it. So, you know, it's a matter of playing around with your strategy on Pinterest.
Mm,
So, you notice your pins aren't doing as well as they were doing before. Maybe you need to up your fresh content. Maybe you need to, um, change how many repins you're doing.
mm,
Uh, so make sure you're watching your metrics. It's important to watch your metrics on Pinterest because that tells you how well you're doing and how many people are seeing your content. Uh, Tailwind does a little bit better because it also shows you an engagement rate, how many people are engaging in your posts,
mm.
staying on it a little bit longer maybe than other people. Um, so I use that, but it's all about strategy on Pinterest. What works for you may not work for me.
Mhm.
So you have to design, each client has a different strategy behind it. And then there's also marketing strategy that goes in. Okay, what is their goal for the month? What is um whatever, what is their ultimate goal? To get people on their email list? Is it get people to subscribe to their podcast? Is it to get people to subscribe to their YouTube? Is it to get people on their Patreon? There's different goals for each of my entrepreneurs I work with. So
Yeah.
strategy, just like any other platform, is super important.
So let's just take that last word that you said, strategy, right? So let's say I'm a new business owner and I'm hearing this particular episode and I'm like, okay, I didn't even think about Pinterest as being a tool that I can still utilize in today's world. Like, what words of wisdom would you give to me to kind of then say, okay, you know what, I can do this. I want to move forward. And taking your positive motivation side of things, how do you instill that in a person to help them move forward?
Well, there are Pinterest groups out there. I have a Pinterest group. There's Pinterest groups out there that you can learn from and get advice from. I'm always welcome to open to questions if somebody's starting because I believe, in giving value back um, and teaching people how to use Pinterest instead of just saying, oh, I only manage because not everybody is going to want your services. They're going to want to learn to do it on their own until they can't anymore. Um, so I say go out there and look in the groups. Search Pinterest itself because it has a lot of tips about its own information. Search Tailwind blogs. There's Pinterest blogs that you can search for more information. So there's a lot of information out there to teach you how to use Pinterest. I recommend connecting with someone that you connect with to learn about Pinterest in groups because each person that does Pinterest is different and has a different audience. So you want somebody to make sure that you're connecting with the right person.
Hmm. So, I mean, with that, let's say you are the right person for them and they want to connect with you. How do they find you online and what social media platforms?
I'm on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, I post to Twitter and I post to Instagram as well as Pinterest.
Mhm.
Um, you can find me by email sassy@sarahdankney.com. You can message me on Facebook. Facebook is open at all times except for right now. Um, or else I get a lot of messages. Uh, I just look for Sarah Ankney Regina. I just got married, so my name changed and I haven't got everything changed over in other areas of my business, example, my email address and my website. But I say message me. You can message me on LinkedIn. Everything goes to my phone and I'm pretty good at responding.
Hmm. Very cool. So, let's get into like some bonus questions, all right?
Okay.
If if just say you could spend 24 hours with anyone, and that person could be dead or alive, and you're getting to spend 24 hours uninterrupted with them, who would it be and why?
Marilyn Monroe. I know
Wow.
it sounds crazy, but she came from a farm town and became a superstar. And I'd love to know what her bumps in the road were and how she decided to do what she wanted to do. And it's not just like, everybody tells her story, but there's more personal thing. And I'd love to know about her mindset on how, acting affected her because I know acting affects everybody differently.
Hmm. Definitely interesting. So I mean, that kind of leads me to back to your story a little bit. Like, obviously, you've had different levels of achievements, different levels of overcoming, different levels of growing in mindset. Which one of those would you deem to be your most significant achievement to date?
I'd have to say it's a mindset. Because I was that housewife that sat on the couch and did nothing. And so I got divorced and I was like, what am I going to do? I have three kids. Um, I can't stay in the set of mindset. And that's where I started to grow and learn. I was like, look, this is not working for me. This is not working for my kids. And I don't want my kids to be going through the same life. I had just followed my parents into their life. So I wanted to be a different example to show them they could do anything they wanted to do. So definitely, the mindset realm is for me. It just, you know, helped helped me so greatly and changed my life so greatly that it opened me up to new possibilities. It expanded my mind to be able to receive.
Hmm. I think it makes perfect sense why your favorite quote by Sheryl Crow is, "If it makes you happy, it can't be that bad." I mean, obviously, you're a living example of that through and through. Which,
Right, right. I love that quote because for so long I was unhappy. And I had to figure out how to make myself happy because the only person who can make yourself happy is you. And the first thing you got to do is love yourself, which is hard for a lot of people. And that starts with your inner thoughts and limited beliefs and stuff like that. But the happiness part is so important because if you're not happy,
mhm.
you got to change something in your life. There has to be something that you can do. And whether it's starting a tattoo business that you didn't think you could start, unless you try, you're never going to know.
Hmm.
And so that's why I say if it makes you happy, it can't be all that bad.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, it makes perfect sense. Perfect sense. So, I mean, going into closing, I mean, obviously, you deal with a lot of podcasters, so I think you understand podcasting most than the average person. I'm giving you opportunity to become the host of the Boston Cage podcast. The show is now yours. You're now the host, and you can interview me. Do you have any questions that you would like to ask me?
I would love to know how you started your entrepreneurial journey.
My entrepreneur journey started off, I would think, my first year in college. It was just kind of like something that I just knew that I wanted. For some reason, I was like, I don't want to work for anyone. And, obviously I was only like 18, 19 at the time. And for some reason, I was like, I just don't want to work for someone. I was kind of like the outcast and an outside thinker. And it was just kind of like me always bumping heads with authority. So I kind of started my first company way back in 2000.
That's awesome. That's awesome. How has mindset um affected your journey?
Um, it's different levels to everything. So I mean, I think originally it was more of a learning mindset, kind of consuming information and how and then not knowing what to do with the information. Then I became more so, okay, how do I project this information? Like that was more of the mindset. And then I became pretty much like an addicted workaholic to where I was always consuming information and trying to broadcast that information. And then, finally, when I had my stroke and I woke up and now I had the opportunity to create a podcast, that was the first time where I had the synergy of everything that I was ever doing in one thing so that way I could always stay positive. Again, having the opportunity to speak to different people every single day and hearing all these different stories of success and how they've overcame their hurdles. No matter how bad my morning may have started off after I do a podcast, then my mindset is through the roof.
Yeah, and you'll be excited to talk to different people. Who has been your favorite podcast guest?
Wow, man. Before people ask that question, I always say, I mean, I have so many different ones, but I think the most recent one that kind of sets herself apart from everyone else for different reasons would have been Wiley Day. And she is a billionaire that is in the top I think she's number 21 out of the top 100 of self-made billionaires in the USA. And I just had the opportunity to interview her last week or the week before. But for me, it was more so her mindset of her being so humble. You would think someone that's a billionaire, there may be some arrogance, there may be some bullheadedness, and she was completely humble. She was ecstatic about her granddaughter being born, like really, really proud of her both sons becoming PhD in the same series as their dad did as well too, and went to the same exact school. She was such a people person; it was just utterly ridiculous. But she was also a billionaire at the same time.
Yeah, that's great. So if you could go back to one moment in your life, where would you go back to talk to your person?
I would go back to middle school, and I would talk to Sags, who is S.A. Grant, one and the same person. That's when I first kind of learned about graffiti and started getting into graffiti. And I was like, I would probably tell myself it's an opportunity for you to really master the craft of marketing per se, and not realizing that graffiti was marketing back then. It was just an outlet for me. But essentially, I've been a marketer since I was 12, 13 years old and didn't even know it until I was damn near in my 30s.
That's awesome. Um, if there's one thing you could say to your kids, what would it be to inspire their maybe entrepreneurial journey? Because I believe your kids are in entrepreneurial journeys. Am I right?
Yeah, they have highs and lows with that, right? I mean, they're kids, so they have their lazy spells, and one of them, she was really big into selling things online, and then unfortunately she wasn't selling things fast enough, so she was just like, well, I just want continuous money, and then she fell into more so the rat race is where she is right now. But eventually I know that she's not going to stay there. And my son, he's just kind of like he's always been a hustler. He's always gotten in trouble for school for hustling, selling different things at different times, whether it was elementary school, middle school, and then now in high school, he's kind of a teenage boy, just kind of going through the adolescence. So, but in the back of his mind, and I read some of his articles and some of his papers he wrote for school. I know the entrepreneur is still there and he's been raising it. It's just a matter of him figuring out what he wants to do next. So, what I always tell them, and this is a signature thing that I say all the time, like, we don't try, we do. And I say that no matter what it is. And he was like, well, I can't. I'm like, well, again, we don't try, we do. You have to figure out whatever the problem is, find a solution, hire the solution, or make the solution. That's the only way you're going to
Right.
move forward. So, yep. Any other
Yeah.
questions? Those are good ones.
No, not that I can think of. And I know you use Pinterest yourself for your Shopify. Am I correct?
Well, I'm a systems guy, so like to be honest with you, I have not logged into Pinterest in so long. I just remember when I first started the Boston case journey and I went through and connected a bunch of the dots. So like my Shopify store connects automatically. I think I may have to kind of update some of my RSS feeds because to your point, I should be posting YouTube videos and podcasts systematically, but I don't know if that's still working or not. So I just need to kind of double check and make sure those connections are still working.
Oh, and just don't forget to go in and interact with other people on Pinterest too.
Yeah, well now that it has that feature, because when I first started, I don't think it had that feature a few years ago.
No, it didn't. It's been recent in the past 2 years. So I also go interact with other people's posts for my clients, just so that they see that they're not just, oh, I'm just clicking and saving. No, I'm interacting. This is great information. This is, powerful. Even on quotes, I comment on some of the quotes because I found some great quotes on there.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, like to your point, I have more than enough content to populate any platform that I want to. It just be a matter of I need to do it systematically. So I just need to kind of check my systems to make sure that the feeds are all laying that content out. And to your
Mm.
point, then start logging in or have it up on another screen with Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram all running in the background at the same time. So
Well, and I can give you a tip. There's one way to interact with Pinterest when you're going in and commenting. If you're sitting, somewhere and you have extra time, because I don't know about you, like you're sitting at the doctor's office, they don't always call you in right away. That's when I'm usually in there commenting, liking, saving, and stuff like that. So it doesn't take that long to do it. You just got to go in and set aside time to do it.
got it. Cool. Fair enough. Well, I definitely appreciate you taking time out your schedule today to be on here. I think you definitely delivered some insight to where Pinterest is kind of so underrated. And to your credit, I mean, obviously you see the benefit in it and you see the value, and then you're instilling in other people those same benefits and those same values. So I definitely tip my hat off to you.
Thank you. And thank you for having me on. I really enjoyed this interview.
Well, I definitely appreciate you being here. S.A. Grant, over and out.